chances, don't ask me why.
More often than not, I'm happy when I look back, I avoided some pitfalls.
Big picture, I have no regrets, right? I'm very lucky, very fortunate. I'm still here. That's number one. Great. But yeah, if I had to pick out something I wish I had done differently, I would have taken that gig for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, shoot, I should have done that.
Just take your chances, don't ask me why.
That show was created for Jean Stapleton. And I guess she didn't want to do it or something. And they approached Angela.
Well, I had just come off of 8.5 years in a series. I'm sure that had its part in it. It just didn't have enough color for me, and I found that those in charge are rather rigid about changes, which I had discussed, and I thought, well, it would be a hard row. It wouldn't be the free theater that we had enjoyed in the series, and I thought, this isn't for me now, this time. I don't want to commit to this. So that's the only reason. And it's quite right, because it's perfectly cast. And Angela was standing in the wings, wanting some TV exposure. And Angela will attest to that as well. And every time I saw Angela during those years, she'd say, "Thank you, Jean."
It was too serious. It was so depressing. I kept trying to read the book, and every time I would get chapter after chapter, I was becoming more depressed and more depressed. It was something that I didn't want to do. It was too close to what my life was with Ike. It's like next door. It was just 10 years ago. That's what Color Purple was. There's no way that it would have been almost like asking me to go back to Ike as his wife. I could not do that movie. It would have been unhappy. I would not have been proud of it. I would have been unhappy. I would not have been proud of it. And I would have been miserable doing the whole shoot.
I passed on Daredevil.
Please, he doesn't say that.
To be fair,
he said
I
you
know.
were clawing.
He's got a whole story.
Yeah.
No, but Daredevil, that was our guy when we were growing up. That was our favorite superhero.
And you passed on it, even though he was your favorite superhero.
I did. I didn't love the script, and I didn't know the director. He hadn't really done anything. And so that was, I just tried to divorce my emotion from, Ben's a more emotional guy. He was like, Daredevil! And he just went and did it.
You say you weren't there from the start, but there's all these rumours that actually you were up for the role of Bree before Marcia was.
I had been offered the role of Bree, and at the time I didn't want to do it. I'd just done something that was similar to it. And then, of course, it was a huge hit, and I tried not to kick myself. Tried. And then I was really lucky because Mark Cherry came back and offered me Catherine, which is very rare in Hollywood. You usually don't get a second chance, so I was very grateful.
Turning down things like what was it called? The Real World? You know, that first reality show? I was offered a slot on that when I was homeless, and I turned it down. It definitely would have made me famous right away, but it wouldn't have been for the reasons I wanted to be known for. My record label came to me and they were, like, you wouldn't believe it. I hadn't even made my record yet. They're like, we could watch you make your record on a reality show. And I turned it down because it isn't how I wanted to be known. I wanted to be known as a singer-songwriter, not because I had roommates that I'd probably get in arguments with or however they did it.
Well, there's some stuff that I couldn't do because of my fight schedule. I think like one was like the Wolverine movie.
Oh, okay.
And I think I was offered the same role that Will I Am played in the role, but I couldn't do it because I was fighting.
At the time, I actually had sideburns. I think the thing that bothered me at the time was just the commitment of, endless movies of that same character over and over. I was nervous about that, I think. No one can imagine anyone doing it better than he did anyway, so.
There is a role that I passed on that I'm happy I passed on. Sam Jackson's performance in Pulp Fiction. I was almost, am I speaking to you, Brad? I was almost that guy.
I was offered the role, yes. I was offered the role, and yeah, it's probably my biggest regret, I'm passing. I think I was, in a phase of, at the time, it sounds so obnoxious to say right now. But, at the time it was like, okay, do I want to do TV? I don't know that I was quite ready to go that route. Committing to a TV show at the time and and, I just thought, well, I don't think it's for me. It was a really cool, fun script. I mean, it was definitely original and funny and the whole thing. And I was right for it. But yeah, I passed on it. And then, two things happened. Very soon thereafter. One, that show blew up. We all know what happened with that show. And two, I was like, I want to do TV. So not soon after that, I'm like, okay, you know what? I do want to do it. Let's find some shows. And then I spent, like 4 years trying to get a show made. It's like, it's not that easy. So by the way, in those 4 years, How I Met Your Mother was blowing up to be this massive show, right? It's like #1 on Mondays and all this stuff. And
I had written this movie, and in my mind, my movie, which never got made to this day, by the way, I was going to make it. I had nobody saying it's going to get made. So that's why it's a delusion. So Mike Myers goes out of his way to hunt down my number. This is before you can just get someone's late 90s. I'm on SNL, but I'm just writing on there. And he says, I saw you on Larry Sanders Playing the Son. I want you to have this part sight unseen. You're the son. I go, Mike, thank you. Good luck with your movie. I'm doing my movie.
It's hard to explain to young people today, but in the late 1980s, there was no bigger deal for a stand-up comic than to be offered a slot on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. It overnight changed careers. You were doing well enough that the booker for the Tonight Show saw you and said, Johnny's going to love this guy, and offered you a slot on the Tonight Show, to which you said...
I said, no, thank you.
People were killing for that. What were you thinking?
I mean, I have a lot of delusions of grandeur, but one of the things I was thinking was like, I'm not changing my act to go on the Tonight Show. Because remember, even though people loved it, there was something. I grew up watching Pryor and Carlin. So even though they went on the Tonight Show, they kind of looked down on it. So I didn't notice that I wasn't Pryor or Carlin.
Right.
And so I figured, he told me you just can't, you can't curse on there. I go, forget it then.
I was offered a role in Magic Mike.
Oh, really?
And I still, because it wasn't, I had the fear that I would be edited out of the movie, and I would just, all my lines would be cut out, and I would just be an extra running around in a G-string. But then I was like, what am I doing? This is Soderbergh, you should have just done it. But I have friends and family who still think that it was a wise idea for me not to do it, because they don't want to see me like that.
Blake Shelton said that The Voice originally wanted you for his slot, and you turned it down, and then they asked him.
It is very true. It was a very popular show in Holland, I'm pretty sure, and I watched the tape, and I said, no, I'm going to pass on that, because I don't think I'd ever be able to tell somebody that they're terrible, or go find another job, or hope you like your nighttime job. I couldn't do that day in and day out. I just couldn't do it. So I did pass on it, and Blake was the perfect choice. He's done a wonderful job.
The one guy that I'm sorry I didn't play, you may be surprised to hear this. I was asked to play Francis Gary Powers, the U2 pilot. And it was a biography of him for a television show on one of the networks, and this is going back some. It's going back to the mid-1970s, I believe. Mm-hmm. He was one of my heroes, and I was dying to meet him. So before I made a decision to play him, I had dinner with him. He's from Kentucky, my wife's from Kentucky, so we really hit it off. Again, here was a very shy, soft-spoken man. And he said to me that all he ever wanted to do in his life was fly airplanes. I was so moved by that. I was torn because I wanted to honor him by playing him. And it would involve the whole thing of his being shot down over the Soviet Union and that awful time he spent in prison. Then he was exchanged, in the prisoner swap with the Soviets. And he was heroic, and I thought, oh, yes, I should play. But the script at that time, I felt, did not really do him justice. So I said, if you just make that script, really find that man. He's extraordinary, you know, let alone what he did, but who he was so extraordinary. Because he was still like there was something about, he was still like a boy who was looking into the sky, watching airplanes and saying, I want to do that. I want to be up there. That's all he wanted to do. He loved flying airplanes. But the script, I didn't feel caught him. And before I could talk them out of it, they went ahead and did it with someone else. And God forgive me, I should have done it anyway.